All right. All right. Want to get cozy? Come on. Want to get cozy? This is a little baby. What the fuck is up, my little cats and kittens, and welcome to another episode of the Overshare podcast. I'm your host, Shara Coley, and I'm going to be doing what I do best, which is oversharing about whatever the fuck I want to. Because on this podcast, my podcast, the Overshare podcast, I believe and we believe that oversharing is caring. So let's get into it. Spring has sprung. So you know what they say, out with the seasonal depression and in with body dysmorphia. I love this season. I don't know what it is about me, but I have this weird form of body dysmorphia where I actually like the way that I look naked. I just don't like the way that I look in clothes, and even more specifically, a bathing suit. I don't understand it because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, I feel like being in a bathing suit or like panties and underwear is basically the same thing. Like, it's the closest thing to being naked. So, like, why don't I feel the best in those clothes? Because it's the closest to naked. Because, like, legitimately, I like the way that I look naked. But the moment that I put on clothes or I put on a bathing suit, I just have this inner battle of how I look and what I feel like. Like, I'm super weird about things being like tight fitting sometimes. Like, I typically like a loose fitting clothes. I don't like things to cling to my skin, especially when I'm working out. Like, I cannot stand. So if you ever see me working out and you're like, Shara, you never have a shirt on, you're always just wearing a sports bra, that is a sensation thing. I like can't stand it when I get like really heated or like my heart rate is up and I have things clinging to my body when I'm sweating, unless it's like a costume, right? Like, I'm performing. And so, like, I don't want to be working out and like material just clinging to my body while I sweat. That feels disgusting. But yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about as we head into spring and as we head into summer and all the things that we're going to start seeing on all of our social media feeds as far as, you know, bikinis and spring and summertime outfits and the what I eat in a days and, you know, springtime cleanup as far as like your diet and your exercise. It's like, let's get in shape for summer. And I think that that can be useful in some ways, right? Like, I think that my biggest piece here is when you're deciding what to feed your feed, all right? Because some of us, I would beg to say, probably could benefit from detoxing our feed, deleting some people off of our feed, because a lot of what we see on the internet impacts how we feel about ourselves. So if you're constantly seeing people that make you feel bad about yourself, you're just going to continue to feel bad about yourself. So something that I had to do for myself before was really take an inventory of what was being shown to me online and whether or not that fed me motivation or if it fed me insecurity. Like, I used to follow a bunch of like CrossFit athletes and stuff like that back when I was into competing, and just like, honestly, I had a super crazy addiction to working out, especially whenever I went through a breakup and the death of my brother-in-law. Like, that was the one thing I control. I've talked about it before. I'm very open about talking about my past with eating disorders and relapsing into those periods in my life. And so I used to follow these like CrossFit athletes and a bunch of people who were just like into working out. And the more and more I took inventory of it, the more I realized that it was actually feeding the insecurity that lived in my head, of like feeding that, oh, well, that is what is acceptable. That is what is attractive. That is what I should strive to be like. And I think sometimes when we're looking from the outside in, we take that for like what we see just in that 20-second, 1 minute, 2 minute clip of this person that like, oh, well, they're showing me what they eat in a day, their meal prep, their workout plan. And if I just do that, if I just dedicate myself like that, then I will look like them. I will feel like them. I will all of a sudden have this confidence that I don't have now. And that could not be any further from the truth. If anything, I think it keeps you in that really negative spiral of that thought cycle of being down on yourself, because what a lot of people don't realize is that those influencers that you see on Instagram, TikTok, wherever it is that you're seeing the influencer, the fitness influencers, especially the ones who are like super, super lean or like super muscular, I don't think many people truly grasp the level of restriction and the level of, for a lack of a better word, words, not living life that exists for those people. Like, I've been there, right? Like, I used to compete in bodybuilding competitions, like figure competitions, and any of those people that you see that are super, super lean online, you need to know that their diet is so dialed in that it's not sustainable for long periods of time. Like, when you're getting lean and when you're going through a cut and you're getting shredded like that, you really shouldn't be doing that for any longer than about 8 to 12 weeks. Like, anything longer than that, it's not sustainable. It's very unhealthy, especially for women. It starts messing with your hormones. Guarantee that their hair probably is pretty bad. That's why a lot of those people that you see on the internet have extensions, because their hair is too fragile and brittle because they don't have enough body fat to support healthy hair, nail, and skin. They're spending like 3 hours a day in the gym. Another thing that I think a lot of people forget is genetics. It doesn't matter if you were to follow the exact same diet plan, the exact same workout plan to a T, you will not look like the influencer that you are inspired by. You aren't them. You don't have the same genetics. And some people are just genetically blessed. Some people are genetically more proportioned in certain areas. Like, it's just fact. That's why I am such an advocate for cleansing your timeline of all of that clutter. I cannot stand the whole trend of like what I eat in a day. I think it is so toxic. I think it feeds body dysmorphia, feeds eating disorders, feeds feeling shitty about yourselves, because what we do from the outside looking in is we look at this person's life in this 2-minute clip of what I eat in a day in their workout routine, and then it just makes you feel shitty about yourself. Because what if you do that same exact thing and you're like, I'm not getting these results, and it's like, okay, well, you're not her though. And also, you have no idea what this person is doing for the other 23 hours and 57 minutes of the day. You saw 2 to 3 minutes of their life on a clip on social media. Do you know how curated that is? It's not necessarily real. It's what they want you to see. What you're not seeing is all the times that they're struggling, all the times that they've maybe cheated and then they're just beating themselves up because they have this audience of people who's expecting them to maintain a six-pack, right? Like, I just think, especially as we head into spring and summer, that taking an inventory of what is being fed to you on your timeline is such a good practice, because I guarantee you that you're probably following a lot of people who make you feel pretty shitty about yourselves. Like, it's all fun and games to like follow people that we think, you know, are funny and cute and everything like that. That's great. But the people who you follow who actually, when you look at them, it makes you feel some sort of envy, jealousy, guilt, shame. If you have any of those feelings when someone comes across your timeline, unfollow them. If it makes you feel shitty about your life, unfollow them. I promise you will be better off for it. And in about 1 week, you will almost forget that they exist. It is out of sight, out of mind is such a big piece of how we heal mentally. That goes in relationships, that goes in friendships, that goes in literally anything. The more exposure you have to it, the harder it is to get over it, to move on, to change how you think. If you just keep exposing yourself to the same stimulus that keeps you down, that makes you feel shitty, that does all of these negative things to you, you're not going to be able to move on. This is why no contact after a breakup, unfollowing them on social media, all of these things help you move on. And am I perfect at this? No. I say these things because I also have to remind myself of these things too. Like, there are times where I'm online and I'm like, oh, and I start going down this rabbit hole of looking at this girl's, profile, and I'm like, this is a trigger for me. This is a sign that I need to reel this in, because this isn't actually making me feel good. If anything, it's making me feel worse. Same thing goes with following your ex. If you keep looking at their stories every single day, they're going to be on your mind. You're just going to continuously think about them, even maybe when you're not wanting to, because you're continuously exposing yourself to seeing them, to their content, to just their picture, to their name. Exposure matters way more than you realize that it does. It is feeding you consciously and subconsciously and telling you how you should see life, how you should see yourself. It just creates this sense of like, you're not doing enough. They have more than you. You should be jealous of it. You should envy their life. And I think that that is just a really toxic hole to dig yourself in or to go down. So that is my advice as we step into spring and summer and into what I call body dysmorphia season, because I struggle with it too. I've gone through therapy and, have been recovered from my eating disorder, but that doesn't just go away. I still have bad thoughts about myself. I still feel bad about myself sometimes. I still put on clothes and I'm like, ugh, I hate the way I look. So I am just such an advocate for making sure that whenever you're scrolling online, that whatever your feed is feeding you should be things that make you feel good. If you're seeing things on the internet, and I know that there's going to be some things that we can't avoid being on the internet, like the state of the world, right? That don't make us feel good. But I'm just talking about like electively. If you are electively following people who make you feel like shit about yourself, fucking unfollow them. What's the big deal? What, Alex Earl's going to be upset that you don't follow her? Also, can we point out that most of the people that you think are so hot and attractive have had a lot of work done? Like a lot of work done. Again, she's gorgeous, but let's just break down what she's had done. Her tits, big tits. Her lips, big lips. Her teeth, veneers. She gets spray tans all the time. Like, she gets Botox, she gets fillers, she gets facials, she gets like all this stuff done. Like other people that you've seen get facelift, get neck lifts, get threads, get Botox, get fillers, have the money to get literally weekly facials. Like that kind of shit changes the way you look. You can even go back and look at pictures of me. One of my old friends used to say to me that like nobody has benefited more from the use of Botox than me. I started getting Botox at the age of 31. I'll post my before and after of what I looked like before Botox and now. And it's completely changed the way that my face looks. Like, you don't realize it because it's so subtle over time. But like, these people start literally becoming more attractive because of the money that they're spending on their face. Like Botox, fillers, all obviously surgery, all that kind of stuff. Like, it makes you look different, right? Even spray tans, for God's sake, make you look different. Like, I have a huge insecurity about being pale. People used to bully me so bad whenever I was in middle school and high school about being pale, especially when I would have to wear my cheerleading uniform to school. They would tease me and be like, Cheryl, why are you wearing your socks up so high? Oh, just kidding, that's just your pale ass legs. To the point where I developed a very unhealthy addiction to going to the tanning bed. I went to the tanning bed quite literally every single day in high school. Every single day. If I missed a day, I would break down in tears because in my head, in my fucked up brain, because people bullied me and made me believe that I was unattractive for having naturally pale skin, that I was going to lose my tan overnight and people were going to start making fun of me and I was going to be unattractive. So like, that's how deep seated it can be of like these thoughts. Like literally to this day, I am 37, almost 38 in a week and a half, and I still have a hard time seeing myself natural skin. Like, I even have remnants of self-tanner on now. Like, I weekly put self-tanner on for a long time. I had a spray tan membership. So it went from me going to the tanning bed every single day to then my dad got skin cancer. And I was like, that seems like I probably shouldn't be doing that anymore, especially since he got it from the tanning bed. He got like this fungus and then he got skin cancer from going to the tanning bed. I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go to the tanning bed. So then it morphed into me getting spray tans. And then it morphed into me doing self-tan. And so it's just like, even still, to this day, nearly however many years later, 20 years later, I'm still fucked up in the head from how people made me feel about being pale. So like, even spray tans make you look and feel different about yourself. One time with a guy that I was dating, he was fucked up and he didn't mean it maliciously, but it just literally came spilling out of his mouth. He was like, oh, like I had let my self-tanner like completely fade off, so I was just naturally pale. And we were like getting naked to have sex, and he literally goes, oh my God, you're so pale, I can almost see through you. And I'm like, thank you, fuck me. And then I went and got a spray tan like literally the next day. So that is just all of this point to say that like, be mindful of what you feed your brain, because it really does matter whether you realize it or not. Subconsciously over time, it starts telling you how you should view yourself, how you should view others, what is and is not attractive, what is and is not acceptable. And I just think it's so fucking bullshit. Like, even me, I'm trying to really work my mind. I feel like the tan thing is like the one thing that like I still have such a tight grip on, like when I see myself, especially in a bathing suit. Like, putting me in a bathing suit without a fake tan on, you can go fuck yourself. Like, that's not happening. So yeah, I think that just, be mindful of that, of the content that you consume, of the people that you idolize and things like that. Realize that they've probably had some work done, and whether or not it's giving you motivation or if it's bringing you anxiety and insecurity. Because if it's bringing you anxiety and insecurity, that means you need to go unfollow. Speaking of too much exposure, this is a great little segue. we're going to talk about dating and the ick. Do you think that you can come back from the ick? Because I'm not quite sure that you can. I don't know. I think in my recent experiences when I've developed the ick, it's like a death sentence for the person that I'm dating because I just can't un-ick it. And so I was really trying to un-ick myself with Army Man. I'll update you. I have some life updates for you. A lot has happened since I've sat in this chair. In fact, the last time that I was in this chair, actually, Monica was sitting in my lap while I recorded my podcast. And unfortunately, she's no longer with us. If you follow me on social media, you know about her passing. I had to put her down on March 17th, which I had no idea, but my best friend happened to know this and happened to tell me that it's actually, I don't remember the name. I'm not a religious person, but she knows it. It's like some patron of like cats in Catholic or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, she got me this like sweet little like rosary looking bracelet with that patron of cats because it actually is celebrated on the day that I put her down, and I had no idea. So I felt like that was like a special little thing, a special little sign that is going to stick with me. And so she got me this little bracelet. I just thought it was special because, again, it's celebrated on literally the day that I put her down. So it's engraved with Monica and has the Patreon of the cats on here. So pretty cool. But yeah, very sad. I've never gone through anything like that before. That she was my first pet that I had. I'm going to try and get through this without crying. Grief is such an interesting thing because I will say, and I will give this advice to anybody, that I think that if you're going to get a pet, get more than one, because I think that this would be a completely different experience for me if I didn't have my other two cats. Like, to have a pet and to have an only pet, like an only child pet, to then come home to a completely empty house, I feel like would just be the most devastating thing to do, especially because for me, every day when I get home, I'm not even exaggerating, I legitimately pull into my parking lot of my building and I go, cats, because I'm just like, there's cats inside my apartment waiting for me. And they know when I get home. I don't know if they know like the sound of my car. Like, they just know. My cats are fucking smart. Animals are fucking smart. They learn your sounds, your scents, your smells, your patterns, all that kind of stuff. So like literally when I walk through the door, they're like coming running, waiting for me, or already there waiting for me to come in the door, excited for pets and love and snuggles. And so every time I get home, I'm always just like, cats, like there's cats in there excited to see me. I'm excited to see my cats. So I can't imagine having that feeling and then coming home and there not being anything waiting on you. So that is a piece of advice I will definitely give. Also, I guess it's a piece of advice if you have kids, don't just have one. Although I feel like one is plenty. But yeah, I feel like, I'm sure the loss of a child would be much greater, right? Because you birthed that child and everything. But I do think that in any instance, having another distraction, something else to be able to pour your love into, so you have somewhere for it to go, because when someone or something dies, you have all this love, and that's the biggest thing. Like, even in a breakup, you're like, I have all these feelings and I have all this love, and now I have nowhere to give it. I have nowhere to pour it into, and so obviously I can suggest pouring it back into yourself and back into things that you love, into the people and the relationships that nurture you and that bring you joy. But yeah, I think that there is just something to be said about when you have pets, of having more than one, because like I said, had I been coming home to a completely empty nest, a completely empty house with no cats, I think that my experience and my grief would be much greater. But yeah, grief is an interesting thing. It's not linear. It doesn't, go in a spectrum. It's just like a roller coaster. Some days you're up, some days you're down, some days you're up and down in the same day. Some days you feel like you're confused as to why you're not more sad or why you're as sad as you are. Like, it is just grief is one of the most confusing things to experience, because again, I was just literally the other day standing in the shower, and then all of a sudden thoughts of her came into my mind and I just broke down. I was having like a great day, and then all of a sudden in tears. So the story of Monica, I'll update you on what happened, why I had to put her down, because it was pretty sudden. And yeah, I've experienced a lot of ups and downs. I think one of the biggest experiences that I've had is feeling a bit of guilt for several different reasons. I feel guilt of feeling okay when I feel okay, like not being more upset now. Like I feel like I was more upset during the process of finding out that she had a tumor, finding out that there was really nothing that they could do for her, and then making the decision to put her down. Like through that whole process and then like saying goodbye to her, I feel like I was a lot more consistently upset because of the anticipation, of the anxiety, of the unknown, of like all I could imagine was her lifeless body laying on this table. And now, like, that's all I could picture, but I didn't know what it was actually going to be like. So I think the uncertainty of it created a little bit more grief and anxiety at the beginning of it. And now that is definitely one of the pictures that is still stuck in my mind is her lifeless body as I said goodbye to her on that table, man. But yeah, so what happened with Monica is, so it was about a month ago, I guess. It's been like 2 weeks now since I put her down. Yeah, so about a month ago, I took her into the vet because it sounded like she was losing her voice. So I had been doing some research online, Googling, and Google told me that it could be an upper respiratory infection presenting with a symptom of laryngitis. And so I had just in my head decided Monica has an upper respiratory infection and she has laryngitis, and that's what she has because my other two cats had previously had an upper respiratory infection that they had both been treated for. Slim got it first, and then Shrimps got it next in the form of pink eye, and then they both got treated. That went away. So I was just under the impression of like, okay, so my third cat's like a toddler. It's, a little bug going around the house, and she's the third to get it and now needs to go in for her shot. So I took her in to go get evaluated, and they were just like, we can't really, we see what you're talking about. She was like straining to swallow, like sticking out her neck. It kind of seemed like she had like strep throat or something, was like how I could best present how she was showing symptoms. Like her voice sounded like she was losing it, but like she seemed like she was having some like trouble and pain swallowing. So I was like, maybe it's laryngitis and strep. So I took her in. They were just like, yeah, I mean, we definitely see the little clicking that she's got going on of like moving her neck to swallow. She's definitely in some discomfort. So what we're going to do is we're just going to, they gave her the shot and they gave me some medicine to take home to give her on then a nightly basis to basically help coat her esophagus to help, ease that if she's experiencing any pain. Like they're like, maybe she like swallowed something and it like lacerated, like, so let's just do this. If she has anything, this shot will kill it. It'll take it away. And then these pills should help, but if she's not getting better in about 7 to 10 days, let's go ahead and reevaluate. You'll bring her back in and we'll sedate her and we'll take a look down her throat. So that's what I ended up having to do because it was about 10 days later. She still was not getting better, and if anything, she was getting slightly worse. She was just kind of like losing interest in eating, likely because she was so uncomfortable. So like she was eating, but not a lot. Like she would go take like a couple bites of food and then would just be completely disinterested and walk away, and then the other cats would finish her bowl. So when I took her back in, she had actually lost already a pound, which is a lot of weight for a cat. A pound in 10 days is a lot of weight for a cat to lose. So it was very clear that like she was actually, I wasn't making it up. She was declining. She was eating less. And so they ended up sedating her. I had to leave her there, and they called me later in the afternoon and just were like, unfortunately we found a large mass in the back of her throat, which explains all of the symptoms that you've been noticing. And this mass, where it is, it's in between her esophagus and her windpipe. And it's actually impacting one of the flaps from being able to open and close correctly at all. So one of her flaps is completely almost like dead and non-responsive because of the pressure of this tumor. And so it's blocking a little, like over 40% of her airway. So not only is she struggling to swallow, she's struggling to eat, she's struggling to breathe. He said that whenever he put her under, that he actually ended up having to intubate her with a tube because she started struggling to breathe on her own, because when she was awake and when she was sleeping, I guess, like she, still had enough consciousness to maintain the other flap open, but like was likely just having to work so hard. That's why she seems so tired. That's why, because she's also been like super irritable for the last several months. Like I have no idea how long this has been going on, but like she's been progressively getting bitchier. Anybody who has met Monica would describe her as not being a very nice cat. Most people think she's a bitch. She's aggressive. She's sassy to people that she doesn't know. But I will say that once she does get to know you, she'll relax. She'll snuggle you. But even still, and even with me, she had started getting to the point where it was like, I was almost like, man, is she like getting dementia or something? Because it would be crazy. Like all of a sudden, she would just like a switch would flip and she would just like freak out on me or like freak out on someone else, like attacking, like biting me, like, just like completely agitated, like literally to the point where I was like, man, is she like forgetting? I don't know. Like it was weird. Like her demeanor was definitely shifting, and now I understand why, because she was so uncomfortable and in pain and tired and struggling and all these things. And I have no idea how long this was actually going on, because when she sleeps, or when she slept, she would snore a little bit, so I don't know if that was an indicator of like something growing back there. Anyhow, so I had taken her in, they found the tumor, and, they basically told me that they didn't think that there was much that anything could be done based on where the tumor was and everything. And they said, if I wanted to go see an oncologist, they would absolutely give me a referral. They could, do some further imaging. Maybe they could, do some radiation and da-da-da. And so I ended up contacting the oncologist, and it just, I hate to even put money as a reason why you don't go through with, more diagnostic testing and stuff. But at the end of the day, that's a lot. It's a lot of money. Like they quoted me anywhere between $5,000 to $7,000 just for imaging. Like that doesn't include diagnostics. That doesn't include continued treatment. That doesn't include anything else except them literally putting her under and putting her in a machine and taking pictures and the doctor reading off the pictures. And so I was just in this place where it was like, I knew she wasn't feeling good. I knew she was somewhat suffering in how she was feeling. And so I was just hysterical. And I had just been in a similar situation with Slim being in the hospital and having to make money decisions and just being like, okay, well, Slim at least had like a positive potential prognosis of life, right? Like, yes, I'll spend this money to have this testing done for all these medicines, to have him in the hospital and everything, but he has like a 85 to 90% survival rate if he gets on the medicine and we caught it early enough. Whereas Monica, it was a little bit more grim. I called my vet back, who was amazing. He took the time to like literally talk to me on the phone while I'm just hysterical, to give me more opinion on what he thought was best for my cat, because I was feeling all of the things. Like, I don't want her to suffer, because they couldn't even get her into the oncologist for like 3 weeks. So for 3 more weeks, she was just going to continue to feel like she was losing weight, not really eating, and it's like, that seems like a long time for her to suffer. And like, and then what? And then they get imaging, and then, so she's suffering while they're doing that. And then what? Well, let's say that they can do radiation, and then I have to put her through radiation. And like, even as a human, I think chemo and radiation is fucking terrible. So I can't imagine what it feels like as a cat, to not be able to communicate how you're feeling, what you need. You don't understand really what's going on. And so I just had all of these thoughts of like, what if, but then feeling guilty of like, but what if I don't even go get a second opinion and they could do surgery? Like, there's just so many what ifs when you have to make this decision. Like, my biggest heart goes out to anybody and everybody who ever has to make the decision, especially when it's not like your pet has reached end of life because of old age. They've lived a long and happy life. Like my cat she was about to turn 5 on Friday. I'm sorry, not this Friday, on the 5th. When is that? Sunday. So she would have been 5 this upcoming Sunday on April 5th. So it's not like she was super old, So I think that even that, I'm like, man, she was just so young. And then I'm just thinking of like, was it my fault? Like, for not catching it, for not seeing the signs? Did I cause this? So I called my vet back, and he just, reassured me, and he was just like, look, like, from my opinion, I don't think that there's much anybody is going to be able to do for Monica. I think that based on the size and the place of the mass, the odds are stacked pretty high against her. Also, we don't know whether or not this has spread. Like I can run blood work if you want to see, her cells. But at the end of the day, like we don't really know the severity of it. And he was like, I'm begging to say that if it's a mass this big, if it is cancerous, it's already spread to other parts of her body, and so the odds are just fairly stacked. And he also said, you could go see the oncologist and spend the money to get your imaging done, and they could still come back and say, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do for her. And he was like, I can't make the decision for you, but I can tell you that based on what I saw, if this were my pet, I would choose to euthanize sooner rather than later. You don't want her to be in pain. You don't want her, to suffer. And so he just advised me to take her home, spend the weekend with her, prepare to say goodbye. And then, when I feel ready for it, to bring her back in to be euthanized. And so that's exactly what I did. And I think, I'm so glad that I did take the extra time to spend with her and the intentional time to spend with her, but it was really, really hard. Like, really, really hard. The day of was just excruciating. I'm glad that I did. Army Man went with me. And that's, we're kind of derailing a little bit. I started talking about that and then talking about Monica, but I promise it all comes together. But Army Man did go with me, and I did appreciate that I had somebody there with me because I wouldn't have been able to drive afterwards. And I think that having somebody there with you is helpful. But what I'll also say is make sure you have somebody there. He was great. Really and truly, like, make sure you have somebody there who understands the level of space that you need in that moment, because you don't want to, at least I didn't want to be smothered with, it's okay, blah, blah, blah. I just wanted someone to understand that, like, I'm going to lose my shit for a bit. Like, I'm going to cry and I'm going to be really upset, and you're going to have to just give me time to calm down. And he was great. He really was. I think the mistake that I made, though, was there's just been too much exposure too soon of knowing this person. And I think that is something that we can all be guilty of sometimes in the dating world, is going a little too fast too soon, especially when it comes to like really vulnerable and hard times in our life. Like, let's be honest, like that was one of the most vulnerable instances he could have ever seen me in knowing me for such a short amount of time, But like literally since the day I met this man, I met him on Mardi Gras Day, I had been going through kind of a rough patch with pet stuff and, heavy vulnerable stuff. Like Slim was literally in the hospital. I admitted him in the hospital the night before I met this man. I think that something to be mindful of when you're starting to date is to not expose yourself too much, because what started happening with me and Army Man was that because there was so much exposure so quick and so much vulnerability off of the bat, that it basically like rocket launched us into what felt like a relationship immediately. And then I started getting the ick, because I was like, oh wait, like I don't really feel like I want a relationship right now. Like, do I want to date? Sure, but am I ready to be committed? Not necessarily, not unless it's right. Like, I'm in a place to like be open-minded to a very slow burn, but something that I think also impacts is like timing. Timing is a big thing. And like for me and Army Man, timing is a big piece of it, because he's going through a lot in his own life with dealing with PTSD and going through therapy for PTSD, which is great. I'm so glad that, he's doing that, and that he's hopefully going to find some resolve and some healing through all of that. But it's also very heavy to take on as an outsider. Like, I feel guilty even saying that it's a reason why I want to back off of the I mean, there's several reasons as to why, but I'm in one of the most motivated and inspired seasons of my life. Like, I am so motivated to just really lean into my talents. I just had a career consultation with an acting consultant that I was recommended to here to help me get my resume together. I'm getting new headshots done this week, how to get my profile set up so I can start submitting for auditions, like all these things, because my goal, I've spoken it here, I'll speak it again. My goal is that by the end of of the year, I will have gone on an audition and hopefully maybe multiple. I asked him, I was like, do you think that this is a reasonable goal that I could go on an audition before the end of the year? And he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. Especially, it's only April. If you're getting your headshots and everything in line, like if you continue to make strides and, get some on-camera practice experience through some classes and things like that, which I have coming up. Yeah, I think it's absolutely. Now, then the next part of it is, okay, then my next goal is I want to get an agent, so I have all these things. And I'm also, working on my aerial performing skills. I want to perform in a year for, in aerial stuff, and keep going with that. Like I'm really, really trying to lean into my talents and, growing my social media, like all of these things that I have going on. I'm motivated and I'm excited. And he's just in a period of time where like he's completely opposite. He's a bit downtrodden. And I'm not saying that it can't work when you're in two different places of life, but it can only work if you're willing to bend to both places and that person who's going through maybe a hard time isn't keeping you down or like distracting you away from that. And I think that that's like a little bit where I started getting a bit of the ick and kind of pulling away, is just like really seeing how unmotivated and paralyzed he is by his situation, that like I know the kind of person that I am. I tend to cater to the other person's needs more than my own when I like somebody, and lose a little part of myself in caring for that other person. And I just know that someone being down that way, it's so much easier to pull somebody into your negative space, into your downtrodden, into your laziness, into all these things, than it is to pull someone out of it. And quite frankly, like I'm also just not attracted to people who don't have like self-motivation. I think that that's just like another thing that I'm learning, is that like somebody being able to be a go-getter themselves and having like motivations and determination and things like that, it's attractive. And I don't think that you always have to be going after some crazy goal or always wanting to be moving up, but like I don't know, I think that something I'm realizing is that I don't necessarily need a guy to be in like the best shape ever or anything like that, but I do want somebody who gives a shit. I want someone who gives a shit about their health and their life and how they show up in the world, and who doesn't need to stay moving to feel successful and productive, but just wants to continue to stay moving in a direction, whether it's towards something that brings them joy, towards their career that they want to grow in, like whatever it is that brings them that fulfillment. Somebody not having that type of motivation for themselves is just not attractive to me. And also, I spoke about this on a previous episode, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit on what I said, because now I see it in a different light and from both perspectives, and I've recalibrated my feelings on this. So on a previous episode, I talked about how you can change a man's clothes, but you can't change a man's character. While I still stand beside that, like if you don't love the way a man dresses, you can definitely make strides towards changing it, right? Buying him things, suggesting, or like there was a time where Army Man and I were going out. He had invited me to dinner, and I just told him, I was like, how about you wear real clothes? Like I said it nicer than that, but it's like every time we were hanging out, he was just wearing like just clothes that like honestly just looked like he was like around the house clothes, like pajamas. Like quite literally one night he showed up and I was like, oh, I guess we're not going out then. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, you're in your pajamas. He was like, these are my clothes. And I was like, oh. And so like in the moment I kind of felt bad. I like didn't want to shit on his outfit for being like, oh, those are like your clothes, but like he looks like he was in pajamas. And so I'm like, I think in those moments what I feel is that I don't want to go out and spend the time putting myself together because I want to look cute. I want to feel cute. I like feeling cute. I like dressing up and going out on dates, or, putting myself together and going out and doing things. I don't want to take the time and spend the time doing that, and where I look really cute and done and I look put together, and I'm showing up with a person who looks like they just rolled out of bed, or like they absolutely just don't give a shit. Like dingy shorts, the same t-shirt you wear every day, flip-flops, like no. Like, that's not gonna work for me. And again, like, you can change a man's clothes, you cannot change a man's character, but there also comes a point where it's like, does he care though? Does he give a shit what he looks like in public? Because if not, you can't change that. Like, you can ask him to wear other clothes, but then there's gonna develop like this resentment of him being like, you just don't like who I am and how I dress, blah, blah. You know, it's just like, I can see it. The conflict is coming. And so it's like, I think that you have to decipher that. Does he give a shit how he presents in public? Because if he gives a shit how he presents in public or how he presents when you're going out, then, and you just don't like the way he dresses, that's different. But if the man just doesn't, frankly, has given up and doesn't fucking give a shit, I think that that's where you have to draw the line. And that's where I have to draw the line of like, okay, like, you've just like given up, like, on how you show up in the world, like all this kind of, and I'm just not there. That's not how I am. And like, I don't personally, this might sound shallow, but it's the fucking truth. I don't want to be out with a guy and people on the outside be like, oh, he must either be funny, rich, or have a big dick because of the misalignment in how we look together. It's like that Hailey Bieber and Justin Bieber moment where she was like in that red dress and he showed up in like the sweatpants and the Crocs or whatever he had on. Like, it just was completely mismatched. Like, that was the vibe of like, no, I'm not going to put in this much energy, and I'm not doing it for you necessarily. I'm doing it for the fact that like, you're taking me on a date and I care. I like to feel cute. I like to feel put together. So like, if they don't have that, I think that that's where you can draw the line of like, all right, is it this is a fashion issue? He doesn't know how to dress, or is it that he just quite literally doesn't give a shit? Because if he doesn't give a shit, there's nothing you can do to make him give a shit. And if you do try to force him to give a shit, you're just looking for conflict down the road. The other part of this, I will say, on the note of just a lot of exposure, is that especially when you're new into dating someone, I think you want to like, it's exciting, right? You want to like, oh, I want to spend time with them. Like, oh, I've got these plans. Let me invite them. Pause. Okay. Pause, pause, because take a word of advice from me in how I am. I can definitely be like this, and I'm really personally learning the value of a slow burn, because I'm also somebody that like, once I get the ick, I can't come back, and too much exposure to you is going to annoy me. And that's exactly what happened, honestly. Like, separateness is sexy. Separateness is so sexy. Somebody having their own life, their own plans, their own friends, their own things going on is so fucking sexy. There is nothing more unsexy than somebody just wanting to absorb you and your life as their own and into your world without keeping any sort of separateness. Like, somebody who is so available to just always do what you want to do, be around your, like, no. Like, be unavailable sometimes. Go do things for yourself. Make plans. Like, that's another thing. Make fucking plans. Like, if a guy messages you and says, do you want to go to dinner? And then you say, sure, where, what time? And he says, I don't know. That is not a man that you want to build a future with, because what that's going to tell you is that he has literally zero ability to have initiative. Like, if you're going to ask somebody to dinner, know where the fuck you're going. Or if you don't, be like, I don't know yet, but I will figure it out and I'll get back to you. I'll tell you. Let's, like, you can decide on a time, but like, no. If you're going to ask somebody out, you are the one who is making the plan. It is not for the other person to make the plan for you. That is some low effort bullshit. Okay. Something that I get so fucking annoyed with people saying is like, when you meet the right one, you'll feel differently. Like, as that is just completely invalidating of somebody's beliefs and experiences, and completely invalidating of like how they feel, as if like what they feel and what they want is wrong. And what I mean, so an example of that would be, I don't believe that I ever want to live with a person again. And people hear that and they're like, oh, so you don't want to get married? And I'm like, I mean, I would be open to marriage, but that doesn't necessarily mean I want to live with the person. And they're like, oh. And then they hit me with the, well, you'll feel differently when it's the right one. You just don't want to live with anybody because you haven't met the right person. And I'm like, no, I don't want to live with anybody because I've lived with multiple people, multiple partners, multiple roommates and things throughout my life. And I have come to the conclusion for myself that I don't enjoy living with other people. I do not enjoy it. I don't care how much I fucking love you. I don't want to come home to a person every single night. I just don't. Like yesterday was a great example. I was so fucking tired yesterday when I got home that I didn't even have the energy to stand in a shower, so I sat in a bath. Coming home to someone being like, "How was your day?" makes me want to punch them in the face. And don't be like, "Well, you could set boundaries and tell them not to talk to you for the first 30 minutes. No, I don't want anybody there for the whole night. I want to be able to fart in peace. Like literally there was a night where Army Man and I were hanging out and I was like, "I'm so sorry. I don't want you to feel like any type of way, but I don't want you to stay here tonight. So like we can hang out, but you're not staying over because my stomach hurts. I'm about to start my period and I just want to be able to fart in my bed without anybody there and me having to like worry about clenching my butthole when I'm sleeping. Like I just want you out of my space." And then people there come back, "Well, you gotta have separate quarters or separate rooms." Just shut the fuck up. Why does what I want have any bearing on what you think or what you feel? It doesn't matter. And I can meet the right one. I can meet the right person and still have the feeling and belief that I don't want to cohabitate with somebody. And what I want to share is that I think that cohabitating with somebody is actually fucking bullshit unless you want to raise a family. Sure, financially, it can definitely help to split cost of things, but I also think that it is a recipe for a lot of relationships going south, for relationships dying, and for a lot of resentment to build and breed inside of a relationship. Because when you live together, I don't care how right this person is for you, it does not matter. They are going to annoy you with the way that they live inside of their home, because we all come with our own subset of needs and quirks and things. And I'm sure there's things I do that would annoy somebody. And guess what? When you don't live with somebody, those things don't have to annoy you, because you can just go back to your own space and not give a shit. All right. You can leave your pots and pans in the sink for 2 days without anybody having an opinion on it and nobody getting under your skin. You can load the dishwasher however you fucking want. I don't want someone in my space telling me what they would prefer, how they would prefer I live, and I don't want to have to manage anybody else in a space either. And separateness is sexy. There is so many studies that have been done in the last decade and 20 years or so. Esther Perel has a book on it. I reference it all the time. Mating in Captivity and the State of Affairs talks about the idea of separateness and how it is the lifeline of long-term relationships. These people who are like, "Oh, they're my everything. We do everything together. We go grocery shopping together. We do this together. We literally don't even do it. We may as well breathe from the same lung." What the fuck is wrong with you? One of you is probably cheating. I just can't believe someone's tired of the other and just not saying it and just being amenable. And anyway, I just don't believe that anyone should ever be your everything, because what happens when they're fucking gone, huh? What happens when you end up breaking up or they die or whatever happens, huh? What do you have left of yourself? Nothing. A shell, because you've put all of your eggs inside of this other person's soul and vice versa, that you've lost sight of who you are individually as human beings. And I can't think of anything more unsexy than my partner being so absorbed into my asshole that they don't even have a life of their own. That's fucking unattractive. So unattractive. Like, nothing is more attractive than somebody having their own shit to do. You know, like, I will say that that's also a piece of, like, Army Man. There was a day where, like, he literally laid in my bed until 5 p.m. And I'm like, bro, I get that you have like this issue, and I'm like not trying to judge you, because I've been there, not from PTSD, but from depression, where I've literally just wasted entire days, and I'm not shitting on that. I know that that is a very human and a very real experience, but you can't be laying in my bed over here all day, man. Like, that is the most unattractive thing for your potential partner or somebody that you're dating to see, especially this early on, is that like you have nothing else to go do. Like, I don't know, go take a walk, bro, something, but like don't lay in my bed all day. I don't want to see that. Like, that's not attractive unless we're doing it together because we've agreed that we want to rot together and eat snacks and fuck. Like, I don't want to watch you be a lazy piece of shit all the time. Like, I just don't. That's not attractive. I don't want you to be so involved in my life that you're waiting on me to tell you what my plans are. Like, I think it's unattractive. And so that is like a big piece of it, is that like y'all advice, especially if you're early on into dating, or even if you're in a long-term relationship, you got to find some separateness. You got to have separateness. It is sexy. Have your own life. Go slow in the beginning of a relationship. Don't have too much exposure. Shit, even if you're in a relationship, limit your exposure if you can. If you live together, even better. Plan your girls' night out weekly. You have a set night, him too, set night where he goes out. Y'all don't interact with each other, or vice versa. You have girlfriends over and he goes and does something else. Like, whatever that is, you need planned separateness. You need planned time away from each other. The same boring routine that you're in and seeing that same fucking face and the same thing that fucking annoys you every day is the reason that you're not having sex and the reason your relationship is suffering. So that is my piece of advice to you, is separateness, people. So that was my spiel. All right, just a couple more life updates for you. So I updated you on Monica. Very sad, but Slim is doing better than ever. He's literally like the spunkiest cat ever. He's so sweet. Him and Shrimps have developed just the sweetest relationship, especially since Monica's passing. I could tell Shrimps was a little confused and maybe sad and depressed, but now that Slim is feeling better, he and Shrimps have developed just the sweetest little brotherly relationship. So it's been very comforting to see that. But yeah, Army Man and I don't think I'm going to see him anymore. Honestly, I haven't even heard from him since the last time we hung out, other than like a couple of text messages, which is also just like very low effort. You know, like, I'm just in such an observation place when it comes to dating now, where I'm like, okay, everything that you do is just giving me data, and I'm gonna evaluate that data and whether that data aligns with what I want and what I need in partnership or with this point in my life. And if it doesn't, then on to the next one. Thank you. Next. Like, a good piece of data that I'm describing right now is last time we hung out was like a week ago. We've exchanged a couple of texts since then, but not one time has this man reached out to me to ask me how I'm doing. Mind you, he was there when I had to put my cat down and was like so sad and knows this. And so, like, I get that you can be wrapped up in your own life, but like, I've seen this as a pattern with other men where, like, my typical pattern when a man isn't like necessarily chasing me or asking me how I'm doing is that I chase them. But now with this situation, I'm like, why am I going to ask you how you're doing? You haven't asked me how I'm fucking doing. Why do I give a shit? I mean, I do care, and a part of me wants to because I'm an empathetic, caring person, and I do care about this human being, right? But why am I going to reach out to you and be like, so how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. You know, when like you literally haven't even asked me like, hey, how are you doing? Like, I know that it's been a tough couple of weeks with your cats. So that's like, that is the energy for this year, you guys. We are only putting in what we are getting back. All right. Well, we're only giving what we are getting. We are not over giving to anybody who is not giving back to us in some fashion. It doesn't always have to be equal. It doesn't have to be 50-50. It never is in dating, relationships, friendships, life, ever. It's never 50-50. Sometimes it's 90-10, but at least there's that 10%. Sometimes it's the other way where they're giving 90 and you're giving 10, but at least there's that 10%, right? If you're giving 100 and they're giving 0, then what the fuck is the point? My birthday is coming up in like a week and a half, so I still don't have really any plans for that. I just like, as much as I love my birthday, I hate fucking planning shit. Like, I really do. I want somebody else to do it for me. Can somebody else plan my birthday plans for me? Like, have a surprise party. I would love a surprise party. I've never had a surprise party. If you're listening to this and you're one of my friends, I love surprises. I love surprises. I would love a surprise party. But no, seriously, I just like, the older I've gotten, the less I want to coordinate plans. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to go do my own thing, and I'll let people know. And if they want to join, they can join, but I am not going to coordinate getting a bunch of people together. So there's at some point going to be a dinner and possibly pool time hangs, but we shall see. 38's coming up. I'm feeling great. Got a lot of exciting things on the horizon. So feeling super excited about this year, about turning 38. I feel very grateful to have made it to 38. You know, I'm officially midlife, according to statistic of lifespan. So grateful to have made it this far, and know, you know, every time I have a birthday, it brings up the fact that I've outlived my brother-in-law by now 4 years, which is fucking insane to me. Like, how young I still feel at 37 going on 38, and how crazy it is to think that like I got 4 more years already than this person did on Earth, and how precious it is. So just that when my birthday comes around, it's just kind of this just real appreciation for the life and the relationships and the things that I have that bring me joy and love in this world. And so, yeah. All right, y'all. Well, That's what I have for you this week. Remember, cleanse your timeline. Separateness is sexy, okay? Follow me on social media if you don't already at Sharacoli. You can find me on TikTok, SHARRACOLEY, and on Instagram at Sharacoli. Both of those, you can find me there. Don't forget, please like, subscribe, leave me a comment. Please leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you want to hear. Send me some questions. I always appreciate it, and it helps me. Share my podcast. Let people know about it, y'all. I want to grow this. Also, very exciting. Don't leave yet. I will be creating another space to podcast out of. You can't really see the room here, but this is all the space I have to podcast. So don't really have space unless I were to put like a couch in here instead to have guests in my current space, unless I were to do virtual call-ins. But I have a space that I'm going to be converting very soon. So maybe within the next month or two, I will have that space, because not only do I have to paint in there, but I have to furnish it and all the things. So give me some time. I've got that coming up. I am putting together a space to where I can podcast with guests. So guests are still on the plan, y'all. It's just, timing is everything. This is a slow burn. I know that. I came into starting this podcast, to building my platforms, to all of that, understanding that this is a slow burn, and that's okay. Slow burns typically last the longest, right? So that's what we're here for. Longevity. We're here for the long haul, yo. But yeah, guests are still coming. They are on the horizon. So that is coming. So super, super exciting. So stay tuned for that. But as always, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for listening and supporting me. I genuinely appreciate it. The next time that I'll be on here, I will be 38. So cheers to me. Happy birthday to me. Cheers to you. I hope that you are having a wonderful week wherever you are, whenever you're listening to this. Thanks again. And as always, be good now. Meow.